Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Thom Raley. The scenario is Fete in the Pinery. Its title has been changed. We'll give you the real title at the end. It was written by Allan, Carey, and it can be found in the Seeds of Terror at the Miskatonic Repository. Our game master is David Gassaway, and this is a one-shot. So without any further delay, let's begin our journey into the darkness. David?
Thank you, Thom. It is a lovely afternoon. It's Thursday, September 23rd, 1926, in the county of Kent in southeastern England. And you are all in attendance at a gala at the estate of Lord and Lady Montague. Sometime last year, Lord Montague returned from an extensive overseas journey, and he's been hard at work since then, revitalizing the family's pineapple business. The English first imported pineapples in the 18th century and grew them in greenhouses until steam travel and international commerce reached the point that it was inefficiently expensive to do so. It was easier to import them from overseas. Lord Montague is not happy about that turn of events. There are about 6 guests in attendance, all sort of local notable persons, including yourselves. And there has been a very nice luncheon served, cold duck and fresh rolls and cress. And the luncheon was served out on the lawn by the Montague staff. The 5 of you happened to be assigned the same table, despite some differences of social caste. Just before the Montagues announce the afternoon's events, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm a botanist at the Kew Botanical Gardens. My name is Patrick Doherty, and I am very, very curious about this pineapple harvest. It seems to be a completely wrong time of year for pineapples to be harvested. I'm wondering if Montague has been doing a little crossbreeding and come up with some new varieties. I mean, we're always looking for advantages, but here it is September. We shouldn't be getting pineapples this time of year. So I'm quite impressed.
Lady Penelope Boyer, member of the aristocracy. No idea why I'm at this table with the rest of you. I am also quite curious about Lord Montague's doings in the last several months as well, hoping to learn a little bit more about that.
All right, I am Paul Lee of the Daily Herald. I am a journalist, and I smell a scoop.
I am Patrick Haversmith. I am a local farmer here in the area, and I've become quite interested in Lord Montague's farming techniques, and I'm very curious as to what he's doing and hopeful that I might learn something.
I am Percy Golden. I am a young entertainer from London, and Percy is more interested in the glitz and glam and really just wants to put his face in front of the right people, hopefully in the same room as a piano.
Very good. Even though Lady Bowyer is distressed somewhat by the company she finds herself in, the luncheon itself, at least, has been excellent. And about 40 minutes after the last course, 20 minutes after the last course was served, you hear the chiming of metal on glass, and between the tables that have been arranged on the east lawn and the Pinery, large glass house in the south, stand the Montague family, Lord and Lady Montague, their adult son Rawdon, and their teen daughter Deborah. And behind the Montagues stands the head gardener, from the looks of it, a man in a sort of gardening suit, serious gentleman smoking a pipe, red sideburns, and he's got a staff of 10 in gardening overalls behind him, all of whom are holding half-bushel baskets at the moment. And it's a servant who's been tapping knife on glass for Lord Montague, who is leaning on a cane, and who steps forward to announce the following events. In just 1 hour, the most magnificent event in the history of the pineapple shall take place right here on the Montague estate. You shall all take part in the great pineapple harvest. That which has previously taken normal growers up to 3 years to cultivate has been reduced to a 12-month, and will revive, nay, revolutionize the English pineapple. In exactly 1 hour, each of you shall be invited into the Pinery to dig up your own fruit, and we shall have a sampling then, and there will be also more of the pineapples for you to take away and share with others, so that the announcement of the new Montague pineapple will spread throughout Kent and on into the world. And he sort of snaps, and the servant who had done the tinkling turns to the gardener fellow, and the gardeners step out into the dining area where the tables are laid out, and in the bushel baskets are trowels. They've got silver patina on the handle with the Montague family crest, which is a pineapple and a badger. And each of you is offered a trowel for the the production later. And also the rest of the house staff is circulating with flutes and bottles of champagne. So basically, you have about an hour to get schnockered before you all go into the Pinery and see whether the great Montague experiment is as fantastic as he hopes.
I'm going to wander over towards the Pineries and see if I can get a good look inside. Looking, of course, for something unusual that it seems out of the ordinary. I'm already quite familiar with Anasas colmosos, the pineapple, but do they look different? Can I see through the glass into the Pinery?
Yes, the glass is clear. It's the Pinery is, it's got a brick lower wall and then glass walls that angle at the top, and there's also a larger, or not larger, but a substantial brick attached building, which is where the heating apparatus presumably is, etc.
Sure.
Anybody joining Doherty on his trip to inspect? Mm-hmm.
Tell me, Mr. Doherty, what do you think the secret might be to Lord Montague's success?
Well, if he's actually able to reduce it from 3 years to 1 year, I'd have to say probably fertilizer of some sort. Plants are on natural cycles. Overcoming those cycles is really difficult. First of all, it's very difficult to understand how he's gotten them to be producing fruit in September. I mean, their normal time for producing fruit is March to July.
Do you think it's some sort of ruse then? A trick?
I mean, there's a lot of people who've tried to become famous by perpetrating frauds. Of course, it's hard to do that with an entire, pinery full of bromeliads. I kind of want to see if we can get inside before we get inside.
So as Lady Boyer gets out of her seat, I'll just move a seat over to get next to Mr. Haver Smith. So you're the expert in this. You're a farmer. You work the land. So you must know all of the trade secrets.
Well, I know quite a few trade secrets, but I tell you, I don't know how to grow a pineapple in a year. And I'm very curious to know how.
So you're saying this is an impossibility?
Well, I don't think anything's impossible. Clearly, I think he's done it. Otherwise, this is a very big scam.
Yeah.
I don't think he would ruin his reputation for a scam.
Not if he didn't think that he'd get away with it. Yeah. I mean, what's stopping him from importing pineapples and then placing them selectively in the pinery?
Well, that's the thing. He's going to have us to dig them up, and you'll know at that point that they've grown in place just by digging them up. I guess it's a sort of his way of proving that, yes, he did grow these pineapples. So
I'll have to get a picture.
Yeah.
But I'll be sticking near you if you don't mind. You're the expert here.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to. And do you have a camera with you?
I do, and I pull out my Kodak.
Fantastic. I'd be interested in any pictures you might take.
Yes, we can reach an agreement.
Percy?
I see a camera hanging around Paul's neck, and I think I start to glom onto him immediately.
Very good.
You guys head over to where we are.
Yeah, I'll nudge Paul and say, looks like let's go over and see if we can peek in.
Maybe I can. Maybe if Lady Warrior drinks enough champagne, she can tell me some gossip.
You could take an extra flute over to her.
I will
help things along.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr.
I'll do a little bow. Paul Lee. I'm with the Daily Herald.
And what brings you to this event, Mr. Lee? Of course,
I'm here to unbury some pineapples.
What do you think of this spectacle? Do you think there's legitimacy to Lord Montague's claims?
Maybe. It doesn't really matter as long as it gets attention, does it not?
That's my outlook.
Hey, speaking of
who are you?
Percy Golden. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I stick my hand out for introductions. Local entertainer, musician. Maybe you've seen me tread the boards out of London.
No.
Oh, well, it's a tough industry, so
I can imagine.
Mr. Lee, maybe you could get some permission from someone. Tell them that you want to take photographs of the inside of the pinery before the crowd gets to them and starts tearing up the soil, so to speak.
Right. That's a good idea. They didn't give me a press badge, though, so I'm a guest like anyone else. But I will.
Penelope, maybe you could put in a good word?
Mr. Doherty, I've always found that it's simply just easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. I'm moving toward the door.
They don't have guards posted or anything, do they?
No.
Ah, excellent.
However, the door to the pinery is locked. There's a nice double door, little atrium thing opposite the brick part of the complex, and presumably, there'll be a grand opening sort of moment.
Well, if it's a glass building structure, then I should be able to look through it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the picture won't be perfect, but maybe I'll get to see what's inside before it's all disturbed.
Yeah, and inside, we could wait but it's simpler now than describing it to just show this. That is the blueprint of the Pinery.
Wow, it's a beautiful
Large.
greenhouse.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it has the family, was horticultural, although also, as part of the peerage, it's always good to have ways to make money, even if you don't need exactly to make money. So yeah, it's beautifully constructed. I'm sorry, I described the doors in the wrong place.
We're at the double doors, like the
You're
large
at the double doors by
doors.
so the shed part is brick and higher than the low brick wall that is then surrounded by grass. The pineapple plants, large spiky leaves. They look like the top of a pineapple, except substantially larger and sprawlier, less up and more out. They're planted regularly in pots in there and surrounded by mulch, which if you peer closely, some of you at least will recognize, at least in part, as pulped oak leaves. And there is, at eye level, the glass is fairly clear, but it's quite steamy higher because it's obviously warmer in there than even this very pleasant September day. So there's some beaded water higher. So yeah, everything looks, the plants are green and healthy. The dark oak enriched, at least, soil is rich looking. It's very, very tidy and orderly inside, but it's also frankly bizarre, at least to Doherty and probably to Haversmith, even though he's never specialized in tropical fruits. There's no visible fruit. In nature, pineapples grow on stalks out of the center of that mass of green leaves. There are no visible fruits on these.
Yeah, that's been bothering me. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It must be some other variety, but
in fact, Padraig, if you will roll to recollect something further about growing that particular bromeliad.
38. What was I rolling? Intelligence?
Your botany or yeah.
Yeah, I got 38 out of 70. I could spend 3 to make it.
No, that's hard. Fine. It doesn't need to be hard. If somebody else were going just on intelligence, I might ask for hard. But as somebody, the other thing that's odd is that normally pineapple are not cultivated in pots. They're cultivated in the earth, in the soil, right, even if it's inside. So it's curious that these are potted as well as that there's no visible fruit. So yeah, there's some jiggery pokery going on that's very silly, or this is not your standard pineapple by any means.
Well, and it's disturbed me that he's giving us spades to dig them up, and it's like that. If you have to dig up the pineapple, then you're killing the pineapple. You'd have to wait for it to regrow. Normally, you cut off the pineapple itself is the flower. You cut the flower off the fruit, and then a new one grows back. But if you're digging up the plant, then like potatoes, it makes it sound like he's talking about potatoes.
Well, but to be fair, if you're getting a crop every 12 months instead of every 3 years, even if you had to start from scratch, you'd be ahead of the game. And if he's able to do it off season, then he could have separate.
Oh, well, I assumed that once the plant was established, you would get fruit every year. I wasn't thinking that you could grow it from seed or cutting.
Well, also you would know as well that normally, because you do take the flower off, you essentially that's the end of that efflorescence, and so it's runners from the pineapple plant that grow the next crop. You don't that root system dies after the flower is removed. It's only a one fruiting body. one compound fruit, one compound flower. So, there's chitter chatter around. There are guests milling about. If you glance in the direction of a servant, there's more champagne. You notice, however, that the head gardener with the sideburns is down at the corner of the pinery from you, and he's glaring at you. His pipe is puffing away like a little chimney. He's got tiny wire rimmed glasses, and his bushy eyebrows are drawn down, and he's sort of staring at you in an unwelcoming fashion. The Montagues themselves are distributing among the guests, making chatter. And it's only been the first 10 minutes or so of the hour until the great whatever.
I'm going to see if I can get the gardener to let us in to take photographs before the festivities. So I'll walk towards the redheaded fellow. I'm not pleased that he's not pleased, because usually people who grow plants and do farming are fairly nice people. And if he's become possessive of his plants, then he's a dick. But I'll head towards him with a smile on my face.
Are you going alone, or is anyone going to join you? Are you announcing this intent?
Yeah, I'm telling everybody that I'll go get him and bring him back and see if he'll let us in.
I think I'm going to grab a flute of champagne and join the guests.
Yeah, I'm looking covetously at the Montagues. So I want to get an interview with them.
Okay. I'm gonna follow my fellow Patrick here down to the head gardener.
Yeah. Percy's following the crowd. He wants to see all the fineries.
They'll call us the Patricks.
So the green thumbs are going to visit the gardener, and the social butterflies are going into the crowd. Makes sense. How do you approach the whiskered fellow?
With the smile and extending my hand to shake his hand.
He doesn't look any cheerier. He does take out his pipe. He stuffs his right gloved hand under his arm and to pull his hand out of his glove. He shakes your hand sort of once down firmly, and he'll shake Haversmith's the same way.
Patrick Doherty. I'm the one of the botanists at Kew Botanical Gardens.
Modern horticulturist, are you? I see. And you, Haversmith, I've seen you.
Yeah.
Jenkins, if you don't remember Jenkins, I'm Lord Montague's head gardener. I see you a little eager to get your peeps in on the pinery. Well, you can wait among everyone else. It's going to be everyone gets to go in at the same time.
I understand. We were hoping, though, to get some photographs before everybody tears the place up.
I'm sure there'll be opportunity once the doors are open for you were a cameraman as well as an horticulturalist.
Well, I had a friend here who's a photographer.
Oh, I saw that fellow. Yeah, shifty eyes. Lord Montague's, it's his show, it's his pineapples. I'm just here to keep things growing. So go about, and I'll see you in time for the great event.
Can you tell us anything about the variety of pineapple that he's growing? It seems a little bit different.
Lord Montague has these ideas about, what's it? Biosynthesis. And in foreign lands, he's got these ideas of new ways to grow. Biodynamics is what he calls it. It's just the old ways said new. If you ask me, same as my granddad did. But he brought back some hybrid, he said. He's going to call it that Montague pineapple. Yeah, it's that special, we brought back special feed and mix, and we've been tinkering with it, and he's worked very hard.
Have
I
you
think it's
tasted them?
gonna.
How do they taste?
Well, no, this will be the first harvest.
Ah.
I dug up a one.
Risky.
I think the laird knows what he's doing.
Have you had any die on you? Any failures?
Would you both do a psychology roll?
Yeah. 85. And I've got 45 in psychology. How on?
I did not pass that.
You'd be hard pressed to be specific, but he's a kind of flinty-faced fellow. At the word failure, one eye just like winked at you suddenly, and then he shrugs his glove back on and says, "Things to do before everyone gets in. You got your trowels, have you?"
Not quite yet, but thank you.
I'll see you then. And he makes a point of going to yell at one of his staff, or direct them to something. And meanwhile, social butterflies. Do you have anybody in mind to approach?
I'd like to
one of the
approach Lady
Montagues or one of the guests?
Yeah, I'd like to approach Lady Montague.
I will be in Voyeur's shadow.
Lady Montague, you're roughly social equals.
Right. You
are on a committee or three together. You know her first name is Catherine. Nobody else here is permitted to use that. She is being, as you'd expect, a good host. Why don't you roll psychology? And I guess, Paul, you can as well. Percy, if you're tagging along.
Oh, yeah.
That is a failure.
No good.
Same here, failure.
Okay. All five of you read people. It's like a poker match. Nothing but tells that nobody can read. So Lady Montague, when she sees you, Penelope, she turns from aghast with a nice little second pat on the hand, and she says, "Penelope, darling, so glad you could join us. It's a lovely day. It's a ravishing day."
Oh, Catherine, this is just a beautiful party you've put on. How charming. So rustic. I love it.
She got that. Did you think the duck was all right, dear? I was worried the duck would be pitch dry.
No. Of course, your chefs are they always live up to their reputation, don't they? Just perfection. Now, where has your charming husband been off in parts unknown? We've missed him around the club.
It's hard for me to keep track of all the places he went. It was quite a voyage, and he brought back ever so many bits and bobs. I see you've picked up a couple of tagalongs.
Darling, you placed me at the table with these gentlemen. Wasn't that a funny trick? This is Mr. Lee, yes?
Yes.
Journalist?
Hello, Lady
Mr.
Montague.
Lee.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Herald.
catch your name, sir.
Percy Golden, just along to be awestruck and starstruck. Lady Montague, so nice to meet you. And I try and sneak my hand in there for a quick handshake and kiss to the back of the hand or something formal.
Yeah, you'll get one. Yeah, you'll get a back of the hand certainly, and a little smile and nod. What's your appearance?
Percy, that's a great question. Percy is, there we go, 65. So
65. Yeah. We're well above average in looks. So she gives Mr. Lee a slightly quizzical look, and Mr. Golden a slightly warmer look. And she gives Lady Bowyer a slightly wry look, because clearly they're on the best of terms. Um, and she says, the thing is, he came back from Malta, but he had traveled about the coast of Central and South America. He stopped ever so many places, and he talked about all sorts of there were native guides, and he was studying in jungle, and it was all I don't know how he did it, but dear, well, you see how he looks. I'm afraid he caught some sort of awful tropical something or another. He came back looking hearty enough, and he's been using that cane for almost 2 months now.
Oh dear. Yes, that isn't like him, is it?
Not at all, not at all. Well, he's everything. The focus of all of his energies has been this crop and this the hybrid and such. And I hope that after everything goes well this afternoon, his spirits will be restored, and maybe he'll finally agree to see Dr. Dandridge, and all of this will get resolved promptly. It's all been quite a worry for me, honestly. But we do what we do. We serve our lords and keep our houses. How is your house, by the way? I heard such an awful rumor about your staffing trouble.
Oh, the gossips at the club. It's very unseemly the way they carry about. Poor
So
Philip.
true.
His health is just it's in decline. It's been for some time now. And it's just so hard to find good help, isn't it? There's no loyalty. There's no loyalty anymore.
Or there's an excess of it. The way Jenkins and my husband get along, you'd think they were brothers and not man and servant. It's really sometimes almost worrying. They stay up late at night plotting. They go into the Pinery digging and about and mixing this and that. And I could use a little more formality in certain regards with the help and the household, if you ask me.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes, it's Clarice. If I don't talk to her, it should be a terrible bother.
Of course. Well, it was lovely to see you, darling, and this is just a delightful party.
We'll speak again soon. Have more of that champagne, dear. It's wonderful for your complexion. Mr. Lee, you should ask her about her staffing problem. It's really quite a bother. Fascinating story. Mr. Golden, Thom.
My love.
Right.
And she flitters off.
So, Lady Boyer, where do you stand against those allegations?
As I said before, gossiping, it's so unseemly, and some of the people that we keep company with, it's
So you're admitting there's an issue, right?
Oh, no. Truthfully, I think the more interesting story here is the obvious ruse that the Montague family is carrying on about with these pineapples. Our local experts say it's not even possible.
Do you think that there's a conspiracy going on?
I think Lord Montague's just playing a trick of sorts on us. It must be that.
And the gardener is in on it.
Yes,
or so it seems. How is Lord Montague? Is he free now, or?
If you look around the crowd for him, he won't be hard to find. It's about 60 people and servants, and it's open, so there's just sort of loose clusters. He's talking to a couple of other gentlemen. One of them smoking a cigar. He's not far off.
I suppose I'll get in line then.
Very good. How are our green thumbs doing now that they've been rebuffed?
I'm starting to move into the crowd, just see who's here. Well, if we have to wait, might as well have some champagne. And are there like canopies or?
Exactly. Yeah, they're in addition to the open bottles of champagne and the circling staff. There are some dessert cakes on little silver trays on some of the tables.
Ooh, yeah.
Napkins.
Patrick. I think that if he hasn't tasted one of these things, he might be in for a nasty surprise. Sometimes they can be bitter or extremely sour.
That's kind of why I asked about the failures. Is anytime you're experimenting, you always have something that goes wrong, no matter how hard you try. And
I mean, most of our most common fruits are the results of genetic accidents. You know,
yes.
you plant 1,000 trees, and one of them produces an extraordinary fruit, and then you graft and to multiply that one tree until it's the entire orchard.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to wait on other people to eat this pineapple before I do.
Yeah, let's at least to taste it, to see if it's sweet. I want to see I think I'll be almost as satisfied if I see people suddenly curl up their noses in horror when they taste it. Um,
Percy, uh, you've sort of, in Lady Montague's wake, you've been left standing slightly awkwardly with Lady Boyer, who's uh, generally not looking your way.
Mhm.
Mr. Lee is hurried off to be a journalist. You get a slight bump from behind, and you turn, and there's a fresh-faced, rosy-cheeked 16-year-old there, the Montague daughter, and she sort of looks at you slyly and says, I don't think you've ever been invited to a party here before, have you, sir?
Oh, you must excuse me now. This would be my first, and you must be, of course, young Deborah?
Oh, you know my name already. You've been paying attention. Isn't that sweet?
I try to move in circles. I appreciate your compliments. And how do you find the party this evening?
Well, like everything we do here, it's dreadfully tedious, dreadfully tedious. But soon this pineapple business will be over with, and we can do something else for a change around here. Pay attention to something else other than Daddy's special tropical fruit nonsense. Oh, it's all so
I take it
boring.
I take it you're not a fan of your father's endeavors.
Who cares about fruits? Who cares about tropical fruits? I want to go down to the city and have a life and have adventure and go to shows. You look like you go to lots of shows.
I'm in shows. I wish there were more people there.
You're in shows. Oh, is that the case? That explains that fine profile. I see.
You do me
I,
too kind.
I suppose if you're in theater, that means you don't have any money at all.
The moths do exit my pocket.
Well, that's a pity. Mummy says the family has no money left after all Daddy's adventures, and I need to sell something. I need some money of my own, so I can go down to the city.
Do tell, what would be the cause of that financial disruption? Are you aware? And I try and look for Paul like over the crowd to see if I can I have a scoop for this guy.
Paul, why don't you roll spot hidden to see if you notice that you're being sought?
No.
Oh, for him.
Is this all within earshot of me?
Yeah, unless you fled, if you accepted a champagne and didn't run away from Golden, then you're right there.
I do not notice. My eyes are on the prize.
So it goes. Penelope, are you going to butt in, or are you just going to eavesdrop on this little
Oh, no, I'm
tete-a-tete?
just eavesdropping. I'm taking it all in.
Percy's question was about where the money went. Well, of course, when Daddy's traveling here and there, and Jenkins has to have 10 assistants in the garden, and it's also very much a waste of time. Daddy's obsessed.
I would say 10 does seem like an extreme number of garden hands. I wonder why he requires so much help.
Well, there are the orchards too, and it's not just the Pinery, but all of it's such a bother. We could be having such fun. We should have nice clothes and go to the city. If I do make it to the city, I suppose I'll have to come and see one of your dreadful shows.
I would make it less dreadful.
Well, if you find anybody who's got deeper pockets, tell them that I have fascinating stories to tell.
Well,
And
it would
she
be my pleasure.
scurries off to grab another champagne. Unless you stop her somehow.
No, I feel like that's probably a little out of my place.
Potentially even dangerous.
My goodness, what a chance run-in. Did you hear that, my lady?
Oh, that's a terrible shame. It seems as if Lord Montague has become rather obsessed with this new project of his. And to just drive his family out of their riches, that's...
Seems an odd number of coincidences at once, doesn't it?
It does. Have you done much traveling, Mr. Golden?
Through the city only.
I was going to say, if I was going to ask if you were familiar with any strange tropical diseases.
Not so much, other than what we would learn in Pinery.
Mm.
I do find that it's a little outside of my purview.
Well, hopefully his health starts to improve soon. Lord knows you should stay away from that duck if he wants it, though.
Perhaps we should try and see what our friend Paul is discerning from him. If we can get close enough, perhaps we can get an earful.
Even, in the nature of things, talking about somebody, you sort of looked over at his direction, and indeed Paul's made his way, up the ranks to Lord Montague himself. And Paul will see more distinctly what you see at a distance, which is what you already saw, and there's certainly no roll required. Lord Montague, man in his maybe middle 50s, good 10 or a dozen years older than his wife, not unusually. Paul and Percy will probably only have known him photographs. Lady Boyer will have seen him in person a number of times. He does not look well. He is pale and wan, and his cheeks are a bit sunken, and his eyes are sunk and dark. And he's not using that cane in a sort of jaunty, I'm a gentleman way, although it's a nice cane, with, of course, a pineapple top. But he's leaning on it. He's leaning on it, and he's been, dressed and brushed and polished and maybe rouged a little bit, but and his eyes are bright, but they're sort of manic bright. He does not seem a healthy fellow.
The pineapple has always been a part of their family sigil, crest, whatever.
The family is from the 15th or 16th century, but they did get into New World fruits back in the 18th century. So it's been in the coat of arms for some time. And again, they're not farmers. They have horticultural interests. He probably owns a dozen orchards of common fruit, and he also has an income from the estate, but it's been in a special interest. And again, they 50 years ago they were extremely valuable fruits because they were exotic, they were hard to grow, and now they come over on boats, and they're much less English, and there hasn't been any reason to be in the business. But if he can make it work, then it might be a tidy, side sum. Lord Montague, Mr. Lee, turns and says, yes, you're one of the journalists that were invited. Good to see you. I see you've got a camera. That's excellent. We'll make sure you get in at the head of the crowd to take some shots of the greenery before it's all disturbed by all these eager little trowel bearers.
Well, I'd like to say first that it's an honor to be in your esteemed presence, Lord Montague. I'm Paul Lee of the Daily Herald. Do you mind if I get a picture of you?
Oh, why don't we do that formally inside next to one of the prizes? I think the lighting might favor me, and I think some publicity is in order under the circumstances, but it's not as though I generally mingle with the press. Nothing personal, of course.
Of course, but would you be kind enough to answer some questions? I'd love to know more about your travels.
Yes, within reason. Some of the things you might be curious about will be trade secrets, at least for a spell, before the business expands. But yeah, ask away.
Well, where did you travel?
primary purpose of my journey was to find new specimens and seek wildly occurring hybrids and opportunities for intentional hybrids among the bromeliad family. The riches of the great Amazonia are little known yet at this point recognized. It's tremendously wild and rugged and strange place, and the many delicious and useful plant and animal species there are still largely undiscovered by the white man. We have rubber, and we have chocolate, and for every grapefruit that the civilized world did not know about just 100 years ago, there are probably a dozen others out there. So I made some explorations of my own.
And for all these fruits that you've grown, you must need to have the most trustworthy of staff. Where'd you end up meeting your head gardener? Jenkins, was it?
It is Jenkins, yes. Jenkins has been with the Montagues for at least 3 generations. My grandfather, I know, had a Jenkins. They're people of the earth. The expression "green thumb" doesn't begin to describe it. It's a rooted family. It's a family of the soil. Very entwined with nature is Jenkins, and the history of this particular land going back eons upon eons. So yes, I didn't have to seek a Jenkins. I wouldn't have been able to find or afford a Jenkins if he hadn't come, as it were, with the family.
Now, did Jenkins come with you on your travels to take a look at these? No,
Jenkins managed things here. He's a traditional sort of fellow. He's interested. I mean, I've of course discovered anthropophagy and the works of Rudolf Steiner, and in a way, these new sciences relate to his old family wisdom, and in another way, it takes a keen and modern mind to appreciate them. So I was introduced to a number of natives who took me inland upon various rivers, and with my own experience and some horticultural guides, I knew that I was looking for a way to revitalize this grand fruit, this most nutritious, sustaining foodstuff in our own English soil.
Wow. I can't wait to see the fruits of your labor. I'll leave you to it.
Very good, Mr. Lee. And again, I'll make sure you have a chance to use your photographic device before all the soil's disturbed.
Thank you.
Cheers, and enjoy the champagne. And as he turns, he beckons to one of the champagne-bearing people, and she summons somebody else, and they help him toward the manor house. He's going to have a little bit of a lie down before the main event, it seems.
Boy, they really want us to drink that champagne.
So like any other party?
Suppose so.
Have you been to a lot of these?
I sneak in a few, yes. I wouldn't say a lot, but occasionally. Usually I'm playing and watching everyone else have fun.
Let's see if Mr. Haversmith and Mr. Doherty have found anything out.
I think that's keen. You might be interested to know, Paul, that I was informed by Deborah that the Lord has recently run out of money.
That's scandalous. Do you have any evidence to back up those claims?
No, but if you have more money than I, she might be willing to talk to you, according to her.
I'll empty out my pocket with nothing.
I have the same problem. I agree.
Gentlemen, how are you getting along? Mingling with the crowd, are you?
Enjoying the party. It is quite curious that Lord Montague comes back and is now suffering from this terrible wasting disease.
Oh, well, the tropics have all sorts of horrifying diseases. malaria being one of the biggest ones.
Did you know that his head gardener, his family has always been assisting Lord the Montagues?
Well, these sort of lords and ladies have, basically the poor man and his father's father have all been working for the same family. They get quite attached to their gardens. I mean, as far as they're concerned, Lord Montague probably doesn't come out and shovel dirt. He just commands that it be shoveled, and it gets shoveled. But
any luck on getting into the Pinery?
No, they're not going to let us in until hopefully they'll let you in early to take photographs.
Yes, I talked to Lord Montague, and he said I'd be one of the first.
Oh, that's good. It's quite an endeavor. We were Patrick and I were talking about the possibility that the whole thing could go, up the tubes. It's we could taste this pineapple and it could be bitter or sour or.
They must have some kind of guarantee. Otherwise, that's like social suicide.
There's no guarantee. I mean, the gardener said this is the first crop.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, unless maybe he tasted something in South America and was really impressed.
That is still quite bold.
If you find, yes, you might not get it in our field, but botanical, especially food, you can find something that's growing in a jungle somewhere, and within 5 years you could be a multi-millionaire having an exclusive crop of something that everybody suddenly wants. Imagine chocolate, or coffee.
Or dying of a wasting disease.
Well, that may happen anyway. Money doesn't cure illnesses. And it could be parasitic. You could go down South America and just drink the water and get, amoebic dysentery or something. Hopefully he has enough money to pay some good doctors.
He has no money. Or so his daughter says.
Well, and I look around and I'm like, he has some money. I imagine when a lord and a lady say they have no money, it means, they're down to their last million.
I assume it means all of his debts have been called in and he's got nothing left.
Well, if he might be desperate. This might be a last end. But if he pulls this off, he'll be multimillionaire. I once had a man approach me with a species of fescue, which was it's a kind of grass, and it was unusual in that it was dark green, but it had silver edges, and the man only had 1 square inch, or I guess I don't know if we're saying centimeters. He'd have 2 square centimeters, and I was like, what's that? And he said it's the most valuable thing in my collection. Just imagine all of the lawns of England with metallic silvery grass. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he ever became anything, but he might have something here. I just want to taste it.
After everyone else does.
And we all have that sort of perverse feeling that we kind of want to see it fail.
Might not be the prevailing attitude, but there's something circling. Would you all please attempt spot hiddens and see if anyone will ever see anything?
I got 13.
Tonight.
I failed.
There we go.
94.
I passed that.
Okay, the green thumbs have it, and that makes a little bit of sense. You're chitter-chatting and you're looking about, you're gossiping after all. You want to make sure that whoever you're talking about isn't over your shoulder. You notice it catches your eye because somebody's running, and it's one of the liveried house staff, and they're coming away from the manse, and they go past the Pinery to another outbuilding. And they rap on the door. It's a smallish, roughly L-shaped building down the lawn from the from the greenhouse. And Jenkins, the gardener, answers the door, and they have a little conversation, and then Jenkins and the serpent walk swiftly back toward the manor together. And the little building, which you hadn't particularly noticed because it's much less striking than the Pinery, it has a couple of barrels outside of it. It's got a small, wood shingled roof. There's some gardening equipment about its place. And Jenkins has been summoned.
What do you suppose is going on there?
I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, I saw Lord Montague go to the manor house.
Did he
Do you
go
think
inside?
something?
I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
Maybe we should take the opportunity and go over to the Jenkins little hovel there, and just guests wandering about,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're wandering.
So the green thumbs are going to slip off toward Jenkins' shed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Mr. Lee's going to let them get away with that solo.
Yeah, if I notice, I'll stalk them like prey.
He must. Well, you're welcome to join us. He must have. Perhaps your journalistic sensibility will come in handy. He's got to have some secrets here, and I'm very curious to find out what they are.
I agree. I smell a scoop.
Well, it might be something you might have to keep under your hat, but if we can, get to it first, there might be a lot of money involved.
Was one of the doors left open in this pinery, or is it still locked up?
They weren't in the Pinery. They were in a smaller out.
So they're occupied. We just need to open the door.
Yeah,
but
I'm
perhaps.
hoping that it didn't look like he turned to lock the door. So
he rather hurried off.
I think it's his home.
Lead the way then.
Excellent. Yeah.
Lady Boyer, Mr. Golden.
Yes, I suppose I'll go along.
Yeah, I'll follow the lady.
Looking very casual, the five of you. I mean, there were people circling the Pinery, of course, out of curiosity. Yes. There are people wondering about. So if you don't jog, no one's going to pay any particular attention.
So, Mr. Golden, are you a singer, dancer, actor, piano player?
I'm a musician. Yeah, I play a little bit of this, a little of that, mostly piano here and there, do a little dueling in a few of the bars.
Oh, pianoforte. Do you play classical?
Mostly ragtime. Seems to be the fancy fare of the day.
Anyways, let's see what's in the immoral music.
So you turn around make a circuit around the Pinery, and as you recognize that it's an old building, maybe 150 years old. Mm-hmm. Again, the wood roof, and there's actually you didn't see it at a distance from the lawn, but there's a horse tied to a corner of it who's just cropping grass. In addition to shovels and poles and spades and things leaning against the outside, there are a couple of wooden racks of pots of various sizes on the outside. Who's going to try the door?
I'll do it.
I think I'll stay outside and
I'll knock first, because for all I know, he's married, and if there's no answer after a couple of seconds, I'll open the door. Hello.
It doesn't look like a residence. It doesn't have a chimney. It's like It's a shed. But it's safe. It's a good idea to knock. He has assistance. There's no answer. And the latch is open.
I'll open it up, and I will say inside, Hello? Just in case somebody didn't hear me knock.
Yep, it's quiet.
Quiet.
It's pungent.
Fertilizer.
At least, yeah. Yeah.
Do I recognize the smell? Is it animal, or does
There
it
is
smell?
there it is kind of, you probably would recognize notes of it in if they could be distinguished, but the combination is just a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's definitely manure, there's definitely something else animal, there's definitely lots of green smells. It's just very stinky in there.
Herbaceous manure.
Yes. And
Compost. Yeah.
you why don't everybody present can roll for either a hard education, or if you have a skill like botany or something.
Got
Uh,
exactly the same roll as last time, 37.
Would farming qualify for me?
Wow, I got it.
it, if you're very modern, sure. If that's better. The point, both Lord Montague mentioned anthropophagy to Mr. Lee, and Jenkins mentioned biodynamics to you. They're related. There's this Austrian avant-garde type who has these new notions about hyper traditional spiritual farming and living and new ways of doing things,
Moon planting and things like that.
And the funk that comes out of the potting shed sort of makes sense in that context. Like there's some biological doings in there. So you go in, those of you who go in. Lady Penelope is
Stay outside.
on
Smell is,
lookout.
yes.
Yeah, you would not
Smell
like
keeps me away.
you would not like that your garments to pick up that aroma. It's
Absolutely
true. So I'm going to share a little diagram of the inside of the potting shed. I think those are actually Montague's notes written on it at some point in red.
And are we coming in at the coffee stain? Or over by the 3 or the 5?
You're entering at you're coming from the east, so you're entering at the sort of side door by bench 3.
Okay.
The point is that it's an active potting shed. It's full of stuff.
Sure.
And you'll look around, and there are built-in wooden benches, there are barrels under them, there are some things leaning up and stacked. Is there anything in particular you're looking for?
Yeah, if I can find the source of this compost, I want a sample.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't bring sample bags or anything, but I probably can find a can or something around the potting shed.
A general inspection of the place will show you there are the built-in wooden shelves. They're at a height to work standing up.
Mm-hmm.
There are things under them and things, and there's a couple stools. There's a shotgun in here. There are papers and notes and scraps and things tacked up on the walls here and there. The windows all have shutters that are open, and it's getting to mid-afternoon, and the light's pleasant. There are several drums that are hand labeled in the same handwriting as is on that note. So it's Montague's hand, you presume, and it's basically like fertilizer A, fertilizer B, and like parts 100. parts 1/100. And they even when they're stoppered, they're part of the funk. There's also a couple of cow heads that were there's the stove in one of those nooks, 4 or 5. There's a pot that's got like a couple of cow skulls and like a handful of cow horns that are separate, that are and there's there's a pot that has a skull that still has flesh on it. So that's rank. It hasn't been sitting here. It's not decay rank. It's
funk rank. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cold head stew rank. There are also some shelves that have jars and sachets, some of which are labeled and some of which aren't. There's definitely a jar of valerian. There's a jar of nettle. There are sacks that are herbal. There's shears. There's a hodgepodge of stuff in here. But it's the drums, obviously, and there's some of those spritzer cans too that are a little stained. Clearly, like, one of the things that Montague brought back was this special liquid fertilizer, in addition to whatever hybrid or seed or whatever.
I was hoping that it was solid fertilizer. I don't have anything I can carry a liquid around in.
I'd love to get a picture of this.
Well, please, yeah.
Of the barrels and the cow horns.
It's an unusual addition to compost. Usually you don't want to add meat because it attracts vermin. You end up with rats and...
Yeah, I haven't seen any vermin.
Well,
I'll take that
when we leave the room, they might be crawling with vermin.
Are you going to take photographs with Eddie? Or are you going to ask people to move out of the way so that you can take photographs?
Yeah.
Would those of you inside the shed, like to roll spot hidden? And is there anything other than the fertilizer you'd like to try to find or focus on?
Well, maybe notes on chemical processes. I don't know if he's sophisticated enough to understand the biology of what he's doing, but... Spot hidden? What's my spot hidden? I keep forgetting. 40. I'm going to spend 18 points.
I got an
of luck.
extreme.
To at least. Well, if he's going to share it with me, then I won't.
I will.
He might gasp a little bit. So instead of you're looking through a pile of paper, you realize all receipts about like when he sold sacks of something. And meanwhile, Haversmith is like, oh, Jesus. So what are you looking for, Patrick Haversmith?
I was actually looking for any sort of information about is there a recipe to kind of get a better understanding about what he's putting in, what he's got, what he's putting together, what proportions, that kind of thing.
So there's a little sort of chapbook that has basically pages that are not in the same handwriting, and they're presumably Jenkins' handwriting, and they have notes in them that are fairly cryptic because he didn't make this fertilizer. The fertilizer is something that was brought. So what he's making notes of is how much to dilute it and things he's added to it. And that's pretty straightforward. It's like, 18th presumably he's been adding some phosphorus from guano. And, some things are scratched out and some things... but there is a larger sheet in that chapbook that unfolds, and it's clearly a calendar, and it's it's not a calendar, it's grid. It's a sheet that says blood meal, which, as you know, is a not uncommon additive.
Sure.
And it's got dates on it going back just about a year. And they're roughly, it's not quite once a month. It's a little more frequent than once a month. So it's like Jan 8, Feb 4, March 2, March 30.
Are they the full moons? That's the moon planting thing?
It looks like that he's been adding blood meal to either the plants or the fertilizer on the full moon, or maybe the new moon, but it seems like it's the right. And if you think about where the most recent one, yeah, it's a full moon.
Okay. Yeah, he's using, that's an old-fashioned superstition. I don't know, maybe there's something to it. Don't they put that into the Farmer's Almanac even today for people who follow that tradition?
Yeah. But
I don't
there's
see
no... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't see anything really out of the ordinary or unusual in here. It's a stinky compost that he's stumbled upon some very good fertilizer.
Yeah. And there's nothing that indicates what this special fertilizer is.
It's a bone.
There's
blood meal.
There's a note that's to the effect of with Lord Montague's mixture and the old ways, it will make it work. Something to that effect. There's also a note on the inside cover of the little chapbook at the back that says 14 or 15 times, "I still hear it scream. I still hear it scream. I still hear it scream." Paul, you're backing up to get a photograph of one of the quarters of funky herbal looking stuff with the slanting light come in. And you back into a barrel and it rattles, and you turn around and there's a canvas sack over this barrel, and you've loosened it, and as you are pulling it back to where it was, you peer inside, I assume.
Yes, of course.
This barrel has a bunch of, it has some natural rubber tubing. It has it has empty glass milk bottles that rattled when you bumped it. It has a couple of, like, not personal but larger, like, agricultural or syringes. Some, all of it is stained with a dark brown residue.
Oh.
He's pumping this into something. Or pumping
Is
it
he
out.
injecting the plants with the syringes?
No, but I would assume he would, like, maybe push it under the soil with that.
They're not needle syringes. They're
Right.
more like, they're like tubes with smaller tubes at the bottom, but it doesn't. It's not the fertilizer.
Does it smell? What does it smell like besides? It doesn't smell like fertilizer?
Smells irony.
Like blood. Okay.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, you know that
It's the sheep blood, right?
well, the idea of using everything. You've got a farmer who's he wants the meat of the cow, but the blood's got to go somewhere, and that's where they get blood meal from. They simply dry it out. In this case, he's using liquid blood. Nothing really seems. It's a little bit difficult to transport, I would think.
I'll look at my pocket watch. How much time before they open up the Pinery?
It's been about 35 minutes, so it's about 25 more.
We should
All right.
probably get out of here.
Yeah, I'll
I don't
take the
think there's-
picture and skedaddle.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything here. Let's find out if everything is okay with
Oh.
Lord Montague.
Sorry, there's an important item that we hadn't discussed. There is under a sheet, not at any of these benches or tables, there's a sheet covering something, which I assume you would want to peek under.
Looks like a piece of equipment. Yeah, sure.
That might be the secret.
It looks like a pineapple bush.
Wait,
It's another terracotta pot like the ones in the Pinery, but it's out here in the potting shed. It's green leaves. Its little canopy was what was under the sheet.
oh, get a picture of this.
I
This
will.
is- This might
Just
be our,
uncover it. I'll line up the shot.
Yeah, I'll uncover it. I'm going to take a look at it too once you've taken the photograph.
Yeah, does it look healthy? Does it look...
It's distinct from the ones in the Pinery, from what you could tell from outside, in one distinct way. Like them, it has broad, pointy leaves with a single central divot and sort of sharp at the edges. It's a green crown that unfolds. The soil in this pot has been allowed to dry out, and the plant in it is at an angle, as if it had been dug at and then abandoned here. So, given Haver Smith and Doherty's question about whether there had been any tests, it looks like there was a test, and it's been moved to the potting shed and covered with a sheet.
Well, now you can have the taste test you always wanted.
I don't see any fruit, do we?
There's no spike on. There's no green stalk with a fruit on it, as there would be in a normal pineapple.
Can I dig in the dirt a little bit?
You bet.
See if there's a stolen. We can snaggle them.
Did you take one of the trowels from the baskets?
I did have
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I took
Sure.
one with me. Sure, I'll.
I mean, there's other tools in here if you didn't, but if you have one of the handy tools. So you dig around. The soil is quite friable because it's been allowed to dry out a bit. You can feel under the soil, the tip of the trowel hit a body that could be a thick rootstock, or it could be an underground pineapple, or it could be a weird potato, as Doherty mentioned. The plant wiggles slightly as you prod it. Are you going to try to pry it up? Maybe give Doherty a taste?
Yeah, Doherty, do you want me to pop this thing loose?
I don't want to leave any evidence that we've been in here, but do you see any runners that are coming out from the central stalk? We could snap one of those off and try to grow them ourselves.
If this had produced runners, they've already been trimmed. It's just one green spiky plume.
Okay, but we don't see any fruit.
If there's any fruit, it's underground.
How big is the pot?
Oh, they're all the pots inside. They're 2 feet
across,
in diameter or
okay.
so. Yeah, two plus. Yeah, they're substantial.
Well, let's not pull it up, but dig around the roots and see what the structure is, if it's unusual or.
Maybe there's like a small bucket in here, and I can kind of scoop a little bit of dirt out, just enough so that we can get a visual on the base of this plant.
Yeah, you can take a regular clay pot this big around or so, put your finger over the bottom so it doesn't just fall through, and start scooping the earth out. And you're being gentle. You want to replace what you've done.
Yeah.
And you start to pull away, and you see the bottom of the green leaves, and then you see the top of a pineapple. It's dusty with the soil. You've got the tiny fluorescent, the little flower parts that are, and you get, you sort of, there's kind of a layer and a layer, and one of the little flower parts, one of the little fruit bodies opens up, and it's an eye. It's like an eye. It's kind of green, slitted, and it sort of darts around very violently. And then from the lower leaves, there are a couple of tendrils that furl out, and the thing starts shrieking. This cry, some of the other fruit bodies near the eye open up into little holes, and they howl with independent piping voices like banshees, and it's awful. Sanity checks for all, please.
That's a failure.
We're okay.
Ooh, 04. First test I've passed yet.
Wow. Nicely timed.
Bury it back.
Okay, so
I found a scoop. I'll take a picture.
Yeah.
Success is 1, failure is 1d6.
Oof.
Ooh.
4.
It would only have been 1d3 for Penelope outside, but 4, okay, so you are deeply jarred, Percy.
Not happy.
And the rest of you, I think, took 1?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And was it Doherty who said cover it up, or was it Paul?
I said cover it up.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're putting the dirt back.
As you toss the pot you had of soil over it, and it's muffled, but it's still horrible. It's keening and weird. And then like it's muffled, still going, and then it falls silent, and the little tendrils like sort of relax into the soil, and you can cover them up.
We need to get the hell out of here.
What on earth was that noise? What's wrong? What's wrong with you, Mr. Golden? What's wrong with him?
What was that? What was that?
I've never seen anything like that.
Well, let's get out of here. That noise is probably going to draw some attention.
I can see the headline.
It's got the other door on the other side so that people
Montague's monstrous pineapples.
What happens if everybody starts pulling those out of the ground? I think...
what's he done? What's he done?
On the other side, the horse is like rolling its eyes, and it's stamping its hind legs, obviously upset. It might be slavering a little bit.
What's happened? What is it?
There are a couple of people on the green on the other side of the house that are sort of looking in your direction, but nobody seems to have exactly matched.
Well, let's go out the other door so that it does, and walk around so that it doesn't look like we're coming out of the shed. I mean, there's legends. The mandrake root supposedly looks like a little human when you pull it up, but the screaming, it's not a pineapple.
Montague has created like new life unseen.
I'm not so sure. There's a lot of things in that jungle, South America, that nobody's ever seen.
What is his purpose of bringing us here then today? To dig up these monstrosities?
If the people in the greenhouse pull those things out of the pots, everybody's going to lose their fucking minds. Excuse my language.
Terrible.
What do we do then? What do we do?
I'm Irish. It's your feckin' mind. I don't know. It has eyes.
Ooh.
I don't think these are plants at all.
And little tendrils.
No, I don't think people would be comfortable eating these at all.
I think these things might turn around and eat them.
Yeah.
What a fascinating concept. What if this is some sort of carnivorous plant and it stuns the animals that try to dig at it by screeching? I've never heard of anything like that. But
are we sure that's what's in the pinery, though?
It looked like the plants that are in there. I'd say we should all hang back when people start digging these things up and plug your ears.
I don't want to be in there. That's horrible. I don't want to be in there. Maybe I'll
Can we leave? Is that a thing?
Just thank our gracious host and say, not feeling so well.
Well, I'm highly curious. I I think this might be the surprise. A new form of carnivorous plant.
I think, like you, Mr. Doherty, I'll stay behind. I'll stay back, rather.
Yeah, I'll stay near the door.
Well, they want you to go in first to get photographs. I think you should put some cotton in your ears, Mr. Lee.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Do you think the servants, they're all in on it?
I don't see how. If they knew, wouldn't it have leaked? I mean, somebody would have said something.
You said that was like an experimentation. If that's the failure, then what's the success look like?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, maybe that's what irritated Jenkins when I asked about failures.
Gosh, I would sure like to understand what's going on here.
Maybe if you can you just be frank with Jenkins then? Maybe just ask him.
Let's see how this plays out. We have an advantage. We know what's coming.
So when you skirt out the back double doors and make like a gentle arc away from the house so as not to sneak out red-faced and be stared at from where that awful sound came from. The party's going on. The staff is circulating with champagne, their canapes. Jenkins is back from the manor. He's about 20 feet on the other side of the Pinery, talking with his staff. Still no sign of Lord Montague, but presumably he's, going to be wheeled out or, brought out in time for the great event. Lady Montague and the kids are still amongst the crowd. It's a little merrier than it was 40 minutes ago. People are a little flushed. This is not a cheap event.
What was the text that we read? The text that we read about it keeps screaming and screaming. Was that in the notes that we found?
That was in the back of Jenkins' little chapbook.
So this isn't something they've invented. This is something that they've... Now, if they could only get them to sing as well as Percy can.
It's a skill you learn over time.
Well, I'm staying to watch. This is the scoop of a lifetime.
Yeah. I want one.
It was horrible. How could you want one of those things?
There's a lot of things in the world that are quite horrible. There's an orchid in the Fulcata family that smells incredibly horrible, but it's a very interesting and beautiful looking flower.
You don't think those things are what gave Lord Montague this horrible wasting disease that he's suffering from?
I think they might have driven poor Jenkins crazy.
They almost drove me mad.
You'll be okay, Mr. Golden.
God, I hope so.
Have some more champagne. Strengthens the constitution.
It's going to be quite a fun surprise to see the look on everybody's face when those things start to shriek.
I can't imagine though. Wait, by our estimate, how many of those plants are there?
I'd say 100.
It's closer to 200.
Can you imagine 200 of those things screeching at once?
There's one for each of the guests, and there's also some to take out, and perhaps for future sale, and also for propagation. So yeah, about 2.
I'd say get ready to plug your ears, my dear.
And there's nothing we can plug our ears with here that I can imagine.
We have these. Of course, you'll be
but then we
taking
can't
photographs.
Manipulate our hands.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most effective earplug in 1926 is a heavy muff and a plug of wax on the inside. Not gonna, not gonna protect you from an airplane engine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the staff is sort of beginning to corral people a little bit toward the Pinery. Anybody who hasn't received a trowel is being offered one. Jenkins is his pipe is puffing away like a veritable steam train, and he's pacing back and forth in anticipation, tense anticipation. Lady Montague hurries into the house, presumably to fetch your husband.
All right. I'm going to get, within 50 feet or so of the front door that we're all going to be going through.
I think I'm going to hang back a good deal. That noise was disturbing.
Yeah, I'm going to hang back as well. I have some hard candies in a bag. I'm actually going to try and ease some of my tension by enjoying a hard candy. I offer one to Lady Boyer.
If anybody,
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
kind of pushes me towards it, I'll be, oh, my dears, I dig up plants all day, every day. I let some of the newbies go and dig up the plants.
Yeah, I'll let all the other journalists go first. I'm mainly looking for a shot of the whole picture of the people digging up the plants.
And freaking out.
I'm gonna stand outside the building and take a knee and look like I'm tying my shoe.
It's old wax shoelaces, they loosen up in no time. The map of the Pinery that you saw earlier, there was a copy of that in the potting shed, as well as that little blueprint of the potting shed. So those are the locations you understand best. You were arranged at varying distances from the Pinery as we build toward the moment.
Yeah.
It sounds
I'm
like
fairly good, fairly close.
It sounds like, Penelope's going to send any staff off with a discourteous wave.
Getting my hands dirty is beneath me, darling. No, thank you.
Paul, you're trying to arrange for a shot through the glass that will capture something?
Yeah, this monumental moment.
And at about 10 of, Jenkins unlocks the double doors, and the locals start streaming in with their little souvenir trowels in hand. Shortly thereafter, Lady Montague helps Lord Montague out of the house and toward the Pinery. And he's fortified with something. I mean, he doesn't look well, but he's had a brandy or something. And he is very excited about this moment. So he's trying to use the cane more casually and stride a little bit, but there's a falter in it. Some people are sort of clustered, but some of the undergardeners are directing them toward a pot so as to space themselves out around the Pinery fairly evenly.
I am trying to get as good of a look as I possibly can where I am, because I'm terribly curious at the same time.
I'm near the door so that I can see the people inside. But I kind of want to make sure that I have a direction of getting away if the sound goes right through my fingers. The second I hear the sound, I'm plugging my ears.
Okay. Uh, the older son is sort of ushered in to be next to Lady and Lord Montague. And he's wearing a dark suit. He's kind of somber-faced fellow, and he accepts a trowel sort of wearily. Uh, little Deborah looks like she's in danger of rolling her eyes out of her skull. But they, of course, are arrayed at, one end of the plot so as to be, suitably photographable and on the scene. And as it approaches, it's actually the 23rd of September is the autumnal equinox, and Lord Montague is waiting for the exact center of the day, which is 3:26. And so as it approaches, he's got his stopwatch in hand, or his pocket watch in hand, and he's got white gloves on, which is great for digging.
Mm-hmm.
And as the moment comes up, he raises a finger and then says, "Now." And the giddy, substantially intoxicated crowd of the 50-odd people that aren't you start poking their trowels in and grasping little green, the bulks of the green bulky tops, and then the screams begin, and they multiply with enormous intensity and rapidity, and you almost immediately, some of the participants have strokes or aneurysms. The sound inside the Pinery, as 10, 20, 60 of these things begin shrieking, and they're pulled out of the ground, and they're not readily reburied because somebody's yanked one up with a smile, and then it goes, "Ah!" And green tendrils will wrap around a wrist or reach out and poke at a face, and the little mouths open and shriek and shriek and shriek. So sand rolls, please. Even though you're outside, it's reverberating in there.
Got a 6.
I'm okay.
I will spin the luck if I'm allowed.
Not on a sand roll.
Yeah.
Okay, then I fail.
I failed.
So we're doing we're doing 1 and 1d6 again. We're also going to do con rolls just to stay conscious.
I rolled a 6.
I rolled a 5.
You're on board to watch.
Passed. Does hard do anything?
No. For the con?
Yeah.
You're just in command of yourself, because some of the people inside of Lady Penelope failed her con roll as well.
I failed the con roll.
Oh, this is horrible.
Penelope collapses to the ground in a faint, at least a faint.
I failed my con roll too. Okay,
so both the pretty people are out. Oh, Patrick as well?
I failed my con roll.
Jeez,
three of the 5 of you who are outside have fallen under the manicured grass. Inside, it's getting worse. Yes?
I'm curious about Lord Montague. What's he doing?
Lord Montague is his mouth is gaping open. He's got one hand over his head. He can't lift the other one because he would fall over. And he's staring around open-mouthed in abject terror. There's a trickle of blood running out of his nose. Lady Montague has fainted dead away. And
what about Jenkins?
Jenkins is sort of his face is hard to read. He's not exultant. He's not exactly surprised. He's backing away into a sort of corner of the Pinery, maybe with a trowel in his hand. And it looks as though he wants to defend himself, which isn't mad, because some of the fruits have begun to attack people, especially those who have fallen unconscious. The tendrils are wrapping around throats where they can, and the little mouths are starting to bite and suck at human tissue. The about half of the party is down. Some people are running around like lunatics. Some people aren't unconscious, but are just sort of retching and holding onto their skulls. There's blood spatter over much of the glass of the Pinery. Some people, like their eardrums, just erupted in a spray. The some of the fruits that weren't dug up have begun to clamber out of their pots and are lashing about with their green tendrils.
Mm.
Where is Paul in relation to me?
You guys were both fairly close to the Pinery.
Yeah.
So you can answer that for yourselves.
Okay.
I would say that Patrick is closest, so I'm going to help drag him out and away from this madness.
You're going to have to uncover your ears to do that.
So be it.
Okay, then I'm just watching, but I'm backing away with the intent of ultimately getting in my car and driving away. I would grab Paul, but I want the pictures.
Well, the camera's around my neck. So, and I'm trying to help Patrick. So,
yeah, and I'm not uncovering my ears. Just I like listening to things.
Because I feel like it wouldn't even matter if I'm covering my ears or not anymore because it's just so much. You're muted.
Yeah,
We're
it's yeah. You if you had solid noise canceling modern headphones, you would still your teeth would still be grinding against each other at the sound, which you can feel in your bones and your tissues.
But there's someone I can save, so I'm going to attempt to do that.
Some of the glass is cracking low against the walls of the Pinery as these hybrids are throwing themselves about in some sort of horrible plant animal ecstasy. So Paul and Patrick are going to back away from the carnage toward Mr. Doherty's car and flee the scene.
Yes.
If they catch up to me, they can get in my car and we'll drive away.
Well, it's not a question. They're going to be unconscious. It's a question of whether the fruits catch up with you.
I'm sure they're busy with their main meal.
I think they like it live, though. I mean, they've got enough to eat in there for an age, but they're not very fast. You could probably kick at one. So as you move toward the gravel parking lot around the carefully trimmed hedge, the last photograph Paul snaps is of pineapples creeping on tendrils, screaming maniacally as they approach the unconscious bodies of Percy Golden, Patrick Haversmith, and Lady Penelope Boyer.
Oh, I didn't get him one time? Uh-oh.
Were you trying to help somebody? I thought you were only helping
Patrick. I was trying to drag out Patrick Haversmith.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Patrick problem. Okay.
Oh, okay.
The Patrick.
Yeah, no, I'm staying well away from what's coming and running towards my car.
And I'm risking my life to save one person.
Okay. At least somebody made some effort.
Right.
Nightmare. So let's see. If you are pulling, what's your size, Patrick?
Size is...
My size, I am 70.
Oh.
Holy crap. My size is 45. This is quite comical.
What's your strength, Paul?
It's 60.
So let's do an opposed roll for comedy's sake.
Okay.
For comedy's sake.
His size versus my strength.
Haversmith, you roll against 70. Paul Lee, you roll against 60. No, yeah, 60.
34. I'll spend 3 points. 4 points to make it a hard.
Okay. I rolled a 65.
Okay. So barely a success. The pineapple mandrakes have a move rate of 8. So there's a good chance that they're going to catch up with you dragging him.
Yeah, my move rate is 8 base.
I'm not going to go into. All right, so they rolled poorly, so you can see them. They move horribly, of course. You know, they got an arbitrary number of tendril limbs and they're top heavy. So there's like this thing, you know, and as you like lurch away with Haversmith's unconscious body, and he starts to, you know, his head moves as though he's not all gone. One of the pineapples sort of gives up on it and then turns toward Lady Penelope and
chose the farmer over a lady
toward her unconscious form.
Well, he's worth more in our society.
Now that you've all got to defend yourselves from these things, that is the scenario titled Scream of the Mandrake.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There were many ones.
There were a number of mechanisms for you to try to kill them before the grand opening, which the scenario assumed you would do. Try to overheat the Pinery or...
I think we were all too selfish for that.
Yeah, we were all callously just wanting to see what the hell was happening.
It was an interesting social experiment. Yeah. I think it's interesting. You all had backstories that were a little bit selfishy.
Yes.
That were sort of trying to incite your exploration, but they also kind of incited your disinterest.
Inaction, yes.
Yeah. And also you were curious about who was behind it, and you weren't going to find out if you stopped it necessarily. But boy, you know, one shots, the sanity bonuses aren't very meaningful, but you didn't get any sanity bonuses.
I'm trying to figure out how to get back there and get a specimen so that I can bring it back to the botanical gardens. And
yeah, it's an interesting question. You would probably try to machete one of the crowns off and leave the shrieking part behind, maybe in a barrel of something so that it couldn't chase you. Because it might propagate from the crown.
Might propagate like potatoes from the eyes. Plant the eyes in the ground.
But they squirm. It's
very
harder
interesting.
To keep them into the soil.
Mm-hmm.
Our players included Holly Buteau, Alex Sun, Cody McInnes, Julian Arba, and myself, with David Gassaway as the keeper of the secrets. We have a Discord server where you can chat with other members, you can set up private games, and you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to help support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Thom Raley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.